So back to our third presenter. We are excited to have Nicole and Mrs. Vollstedt back. Sorry, Mrs. Jansen. Nicole Jansen back to present with us again today. They are from Sacred Heart in West Des Moines. They are going to share some of their makerspace things that they've done in their classroom. And glad to have you back. So thank you.
All right. Okay, well, if you came to TIC, we presented at TIC, so sorry if you've already seen this, but we wanted to share with more people here in our local area as well for our makerspace startup design and implementation. I'm Nicole Jansen, and I teach 4th grade at Sacred Heart in West Des Moines.
I'm Amy Vollstedt, and I'm tech coordinator at Sacred Heart. And we'll get started here. So we have some information. This is all on...
if you want to follow and
Yep.
check out. Not super awesome at tweeting. I'm better at Instagram because I like the picture portion of it with my students and stuff. But you can check that out. If you have any questions, let us know. To start out, what is makerspace? We started a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, researching it, figuring out how we wanted it to look in our school, what we wanted to be different for Sacred Heart, and how we wanted to make it work. We took a class at Iowa State. They had a really awesome class for us to take, and we were introduced to different activities and different processes through that, so we kind of took off from there.
And the class was online for 4 weeks and then 2 days hands-on up on campus, which was really where we got a lot of our good ideas and really got things going with that. And we decided we took a little bit different approach to how to set it up. When I first saw Makerspace, it was at TIC about 5 years ago, and most people were doing it in their libraries. And I thought, that's great because they have the tables and everything, but could we change our computer lab, this is what it looked like then, to a more hands-on and flexible space? So it took a long time, but this is what we turned it into. And we started out with, thinking how this would work and making sure that it was all very feasible. And the thing we found was the place to start really is with your tables and your seating to make sure things can be on wheels and can move around. So that's kind of where we started, was how can we make this happen? We started by getting rid of the desktop computers and using laptops. So now instead of all those big clunky desktop computers, we moved on to laptops. And basically what we do, so I've been doing the tech thing I do a lot like what Ann does and have for about 20 years. So we're ready to move that to a different direction. So how we set this up was I still have the K-5 classes. I do once a week, 45 minutes. It's a big variety of what they do. I keep laptops set up in half the room so they can still, if there's like a keyboarding activity or whatever it is they need to work on, we can do that. I've got enough laptops in a cart that we can have the whole room set up for tech time if we need it, or we can clear everything out and have all the tables for makerspace time. So it changes week to week what we do, and this is year 3. We implemented it about a year and a half ago, right around this time of year. We didn't have it ready at the start of the year, so we introduced it halfway through the year and just kind of figure out what worked, what didn't, and then had a full implementation year, and now we're really rolling with it.
So if you're looking at setting up your own makerspace in your school, start with a plan. Talk with other people, try things out, try different things. AEA came in as well and had a different group of activities, and then we did let the kids play. We let them explore things, and then we did a survey to ask them what they wanted to see in our school, what they thought would make a difference for their learning, and then pulled it together and kind of started slowly building in the materials as we could get the money for them. Social media is another great resource. There's cheaper things that you can have for makerspace. It doesn't always have to be the high-tech things. We do a lot of low-tech stuff that we'll share with you today too. The hardest part is the budget, but you can make it work with different things depending on what you have exposure to. And again, AEA has been a huge help to us for finding different ideas for things.
So your room arrangement is a big part of this, getting things as flexible as you can. If you want to do makerspace just in your classroom, it can be a small cupboard or a small cabinet with your activities and with your supplies. It can be on a cart. Maybe you have a teaching partner and you can put everything on a cart that can roll room to room. It's a place that can get messy, which my room has carpet, and I'd really love it if we could tear that out. But, little steps, we do little things at a time. One of the things we use, and we'll show you a picture here, we do a lot with like dry erase film. It's like contact paper, but you can write on it for dry erase. Should we move on to some pictures here? So we did, and we'll get to that in a second, we did, got some containers. These are all on roller bins. In here I've got Legos and K'NEX little bits, and then a lot of cardboard like consumable supplies, and just anything. And this is all what the kids go to and grab out of whenever they need supplies.
The thing that's best about these is that the kids can see, and then they're not going to pull out the tubs to scrounge through. They can see what they want and just grab the drawer that they want. These drawers are also removable, so if we say, hey, we want the kids just to be on something, we'll just pull the whole drawer out and say, this is the drawer that you have today to look through. So these were from the Container Store. They came in and kind of helped her design what they wanted for that.
And they can, sometimes the teachers take this stuff to the room if my room's not available, or they need to borrow it. Like we just had a preschool STEM night, so they just came in and took whatever they needed, rolled it into the gym for that.
They're on wheels, so they're super helpful for that.
And then the movable tables, this was a big part of what we did, was get rid of all the big clunky tables and get everything. And we're moving all the time, changing these around. I've tried many different configurations. The picture on the left is where I keep the laptops set up. Last year I had the laptops on the straight tables, and we just keep moving around depending on what our needs are, and that always works out really well too.
Here's the whiteboard contact film. The picture with the iPads is what I have for my small reading group table. Tip is don't wash them off with Clorox wipes because it completely ruined the finish on it, so putting new on now. But she has it on her cupboards in the makerspace area. We use it instead of having to purchase an expensive table, just put it on a table from a garage sale as my small group table and put the contact paper on. It's like $12 on Amazon. So it's super helpful for us. It lets the kids be creative. They can draw their plans out. We do a lot of planning on that, and then that way we're not wasting paper, and it gives the kids their access to their work. So we use that a lot.
The other reason we went to the cupboards in my room, I had an interactive whiteboard that I really wasn't using all that much. So we took that out and changed my big whiteboard into a Lego wall. And I just have a pull-down screen now for when I need my projector. So then since I lost my whiteboard, we just use those now instead. So
there's the Lego wall for you to see. It used to be a whiteboard and a cork board, and changed it into a Lego wall for the students.
And our principal's husband came in the summer, and we just purchased the build plates for Lego. I think they're like 15 by 15 size. And he just glued them all right onto what was already existing. And here's another thing, you could do that small in your room. You could do a small bulletin board or an easel or something to have a Lego wall. The kids love the Lego wall. We give them different challenges. Even junior high did a marble run where they each had a section of the wall. They had X number of Legos, and they had to create it where the marble would run down, and then we timed them to see who could do it the fastest.
So the low-tech portion is kind of where I do a lot of that in my classroom, and the kids honestly enjoy the low-tech sometimes more than the high-tech stuff. We use a lot of cardboard. We recyclable materials, straws and connectors. The Magnetiles, even my fourth graders loved building with the Magnetiles, and you're like, that's so preschool. Yes, it is, but they loved it, and they got really creative with it, with their task cards. Legos are everybody's go-to for STEM as well. And then the Connects, we had a whole bunch of Connects. And the parents are always willing to get rid of their Legos when their kids are done with their sets. So you'd be surprised as how many Legos you can get donated from parents who are just sick of stepping on them. So
Yeah, I don't think we've spent any money on Legos. I think they're
no,
all
they've
donated.
all been donated.
Yeah.
So there's the Connects, and there's a task card example of the Connect where the
this
kids
is,
had to,
these are magnet sticks,
Yep.
yeah.
Where the kids had to design something based off of the task card and see how that worked. So that was a little kindergartner from last year. And then there's those magnet tiles that the little ones are using. There's the straws and connectors, and those are 5th graders building different things with that. So even they find joy out of the little things. Task cards are a big part of how in the world are we going to connect makerspace to curriculum, and how are we going to make the learning in there more meaningful and less playtime, which is a big fight that a lot of people have to have as to how to incorporate a makerspace. So here's an example of one of the task cards that my students had to create. They had to design something that could provide a service for others. Well, the JoJo bows were super huge even in 4th grade last year, so they made a little bow dispenser. Oh, it has sound.
Made it out of a box and some cardboard. And so you put the coin in, which has a ton of love over at the table. So you put the coin in, and then you have to push this, and something comes out. And it's a bow. And it has hair tie. A hair tie, so.
And they made that too.
Yep, and they made the bow too, yeah. So they really enjoy the task cards. It gives them a little bit more meaning behind their learning that they
And
do.
the other part we like to do with the task cards is allow time for the presentation part, so that they have to speak and explain to their classmates what they're doing, and then everybody gets to see their design. And that's always just a good skill too, is the speaking component of that.
The
when they
presentation
share. Yeah.
portion of it. I use Instagram for my presentation portion. The kids love typing a caption on Instagram or recording their creations on Instagram. Obviously, I don't show their faces on there, but they get excited about doing that. Here's some more examples of task cards. We have Lego task cards for the little ones to use. These are things that we purchased on Teachers Pay Teachers, so you can always search in and find task cards. Obviously, with Teach Outside the Box, they have some task cards in there too with the STEM bins and stuff. But here are some more examples of tasks that I have used with my 4th graders to make the makerspace creation portion more meaningful to them. We had to use recyclable materials to make an amusement park. The middle one, we're not allowed to have class pets in our school. I don't know why that is. So the kids wanted to create a class pet, and that's their little fish that they made, and it swims back and forth if you move the stick. And then another student made a cell phone stand so that Miss Jansen could have her cell phone on the desk and see it, they said. So the other one, we are a Catholic school, so we do service projects. And we said we are assigned to go pick up litter on our playground in our school area. And so they had to make something that made picking up litter more fun. And so you can see how fun it is. She still wasn't super into it, but it's still a more fun way to pick up litter than just going and picking up with your hands.
Just giving them the challenge. So to get items for your makerspace, there's a lot of ways to go about it. This is a list I sent out last year, and this list is ever changing because of whatever our needs are. And just send it out via email, and or even have teachers clean out their classrooms. Sometimes they have things they want to get rid of. And then storage becomes an issue, but
That's what we're dealing with right now.
yeah, we are. But we had somebody dropped off a whole bunch of cardboard stuff. It's good stuff, but then the way my schedule is, if I do a maker activity with back-to-back 4th graders, we need a lot of supplies that day. So you do go through it, and the kids they use whatever you put out. So we've learned you got to put out small piles of stuff because they will use everything that's there.
They will use everything.
So yeah, so we kind of have to ration it out. Yes.
Sorry, do you have like in terms of like the items needed, if I in my classroom needed popsicle sticks, could I come get them from the
Yes,
maker?
And I do,
absolutely.
yep.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah.
I'll say, hey, I need some straws today. Do you have any that I could borrow? Or she'll do vice versa. She'll be like, hey, do you
Yeah,
have
if
any
I'm out of
left over of
something.
this
Yeah.
that I could use?
There's no like.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I've been thinking about is how do you let people know even what you have so that they're not purchasing more of the same thing you already have?
Yeah, right.
And
yeah.
it's kind of nice
This
because
list,
our makerspace is designed where she's there, but the teachers are in there as well.
It's all
so the
collaboration.
teachers
We
are
plan
in there to
everything
see
together.
what the students are using and
Yeah.
how they are making it work. So we're constantly talking to her about,
It's-
hey, this is what I want to do. Do you have the materials for that? And she'll say, no, we might need to get some
we'll have to
things.
get 'em.
Or,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course I do. Or we can modify it. We do a lot of modification and say, hey, we don't have popsicle sticks right now. We're all out. Maybe we can use straws or something instead. So
So is it like a special for your students?
Yes and no, it is, but it's not drop them at the door. It's collaboration. Yeah, the teacher stays with.
Scheduled, like,
It is
scheduled.
scheduled,
Yep.
right? Yeah, yep.
yeah, so
Yep,
I
every week
take
at a certain
fourth
time.
grade on Tuesdays, back-to-back fourth grade classes on Tuesdays as part of my science curriculum. We tie it into science. So for me, it's not really a special, but for the third grade teachers,
We
they kind of have
do.
it with
We try to do as
rotation.
much back-to-back as possible, if we can be on the same page with both groups. It's a lot less set up in my room for that. Another thing about supplies that I found out recently is Dollar Tree will do, you can get you can use tax exempt status with the Dollar Tree and order, and they'll ship to store and you can pick it up. And you have to order in bulk, like, I got a lot of straws because it's like, you get this huge package. I had to get 24 packages, but I spent $24. So,
Yeah.
so you can buy in bulk from them, and that's a really good resource, the way kids go through stuff. But yeah, they do have tax exempt, so that was a really good find for us for some of those things that you just maybe not get enough of, and then you get a supply in and you're good to go. The local businesses is another one. However, we're still working on that one. We haven't taken that one too far yet, but.
Well, I work my part-time job,
yeah,
and they have a
that's
lot of
just
recyclable materials
cardboard
and stuff that they're always willing to get rid of. And so
She
I
brings
hit
that
up
stuff
them
in,
and say,
yeah.
hey, can I take it to school? And they're like, sure, sounds good. So
Grandparents, we do our Grandparents' Day in the spring and really try to showcase our STEM, and that's been a big help too. And then they take an interest and will donate things as well.
yeah, grandparents are a big part of our school as a Catholic school. A lot of them are kind of the funders of our kiddos' educations. So we reach out to the grandparents a lot. A lot of people just stop at the parents. Always taking it a step further, there's a lot of different family members to continue to reach. You'd be surprised as to how much money you can get from the older generation that want to support their kids moving in this kind of direction for their education. The most important thing is it's always changing and updating. We might say, hey, slow down on the big boxes. We're good on those for a little while. Or we don't need any more straws and stuff because we just bought a huge thing. But honestly, you go through it so fast with the kiddos when they want to design that too much is never enough.
Now the fun stuff.
The high-tech stuff, yes. This is where my passion is really engaged, and I call it my playtime with my teaching. We have some examples of things over there to try out today if you want to see them. I think most of you have kind of been exposed to these things if you have gone to a lot of different conferences. Right now, it is Code Week, as they said, and I am using a lot of these, almost all of these right now for my hour of Code Week to get my students engaged in coding in a different way than code.org. Code.org is amazing, and that's how we start out, is on code.org. But we're taking a step further. The Spheros are these little robotic balls, and the kids can, little kids can draw, can draw and drive it around on the ground and stuff. But my students, we took it another step further. At that class in Iowa State, they gave us these maps, these courses to go through, and we have the kids code their robot to go through the courses, and then they race with their codes. We have 2 mats with it, so then they race to see who can get to the finish line the fastest on the green track or the blue track for them to do
Yeah.
it. So they just will write their code in there to program it to move through.
So a little
they have
note
a lot
on
of fun.
this. This was designed by Dennis Culver at Iowa, or his students, or him at Iowa State.
Iowa State, yep.
And he shared this PDF with us of this file. and I just sent it out here to get printed on this vinyl. So, a good plug for Heartland. Very, very reasonably priced to do that. I'm actually going to do some more. And if any of you want this, just shoot either of us an email, and we'll send you the PDF because I asked permission, and he said that was fine to do that. So, this is a really neat thing to get. And even at first, like we'll set this up in a little while. At first with the Spheros, you don't have to code them. You can just drive them.
Yep.
And they can pick a route just to drive to get familiar how to use it and not run it off of the track. So those are all just simple things you can do. And a couple Spheros really go a long ways. I mean, you can have a couple kids at a time or partners doing stuff.
Yeah, my kids partner up a lot
Yeah.
for them to do them. But
TIC still have zeros you can check out.
Yes.
Okay.
so again, I'm all about backing up and supporting why I do things in my classroom, because there's always going to be somebody who says you're just playing with your students in your classroom, you're not really teaching. So for Sphero integration, I'm teaching my kids problem solving. Timing is a big thing. We use decimals, we use angles. They're collaborating with other people effectively. If they're not collaborating correctly, then their Sphero gets taken away. We work on coding and then critical thinking. So here are some examples of mazes. There's the maze that we showed you on there, but we have a couple of those mats, and my kids were like, hey, I want to design my own maze. So then we used those straws that they were using for those connectors, and they made their own maze. So here's the one example.
I have to read through the whole thing. I like when it's extra. Okay. Perfect. Miss mine up. Okay, this thing needs to go faster than 20 speed.
And you can hear them in the background saying this thing needs to go faster than the different speeds that they're having programmed in there. So again, they're talking about their timing and their what's not working and what's working.
And we were taught how to do this at our class. This was exactly what we did when we took our class up at Ames, was given time to code and do it. And this other example is we're just using some straws. They can make their own maze. So you can make a maze out of anything, obviously.
And when I introduce Spheros, I have them code their robot through our classroom. And so I have flexible seating in my classroom that the students were setting up in different obstacle courses to code their Sphero around. So that was always fun for them to try. Osmos are another piece that we use. They are a little bit primary depending on what you're using them for. I still use mine in my fourth graders, and my fourth graders love the coding on the Spheros. Especially coding Jam is our new one that we just got for our music department to incorporate the A into the STEAM part of it.
So if you have not seen an Osmo or how it works, you buy this base and you have to use an iPad with it, and it has all these, an app for every one of the things we'll show you later. But there's a little mirror in this at the top of this little red piece, this reflector. And then it's interactive. Whatever the kids do down here, it comes up, it shows them on their screen. So we've got samples here. We have, some of them are very elementary. There's letters and numbers, and there's a drawing app that the kindergarten just love. And then the coding ones are what this grade level that we're talking about today mainly uses. And then the other neat one they have is called Pizza Company. And that is where there's all these pieces for like making a pizza, and the kids have to make the pizza. They follow directions. It's nonverbal, and they have to look at the picture and make what's on there. And then the customer pays for it, and they have to give them change back.
You have to make change,
and that's the big thing.
The hardest part for
the
the students.
really
They can make the
huge,
pizzas, but they can't make the change.
Yeah.
Even in fourth grade, you'd be
You'd be
surprised as
surprised,
to how hard that making the change part is. And they can make it gets progressively harder, so you can make it as hard or as easy as you want it to be. But yeah, Pizza Co. is a great one for our students. The numbers one does great for multiplication work because they have to use multiplication and addition in order to solve the problems. So they're thinking, well, it doesn't go in evenly, but then I have to add something onto it. So it's another great one that I use for my extra math practice with my students. The next one are the Autobots, and I'm trying to get more into them and using them in different ways. we got a little bit too excited about the spheros and not these little things, but these little things are super powerful as well. They help teach problem solving, timing, creativity, collaboration, inventiveness, and then the coding. They code based on
They're teeny
colored
little guys.
lines.
Yeah.
Black lines are their paths, and there's different codes to change the speeds, change how they're going, where they're going. The students wanted to make it more so than just a little robot. They decided to put
They had a
Um,
task card, I believe.
a balloon on top
They made an animal,
and made a little animal going through.
and they made a maze, and they had to code.
Okay, I think I'm done because I don't.
So you'll see on the corners, like there's a colored code there that they put in to make them to turn.
I'm done.
He made the turn. He made the
He made the turn.
How much longer do you have on makerspace?
About 4 minutes.
So they like doing those things too. It takes it another step.
I think the next one, oh yeah, okay, so
And
this,
then-
this
yep.
one is, our third grade were studying planets, and our teachers are here that did this one. And what we had the kids do with these was they each had their planet. So they took their Ozobot and decorated it, like put a little cover on it to look like their planet. And then we set this all up, and we did 2 different ones of this. And they created like their orbit around the sun and coded that orbit, that that planet would do during that time. And then we just held up a ball in the middle for the sun and ran them around. And this was a trial and error, because we did it with the tables the first time and decided that didn't work so well. So for the second group, we cleared all the tables out, and I taped all the paper to the floor, and we did it right on the floor, and that seemed to work a lot better. So just neat things you can do to really tie it into your curriculum.
Little bits are another thing that we use. I teach circuits and energy in 4th grade. So we do the little bits. They teach the circuit. They're little tiny pieces that connect together using magnets, or they're magnetized, I guess. This is an example of a car that they created. They put a battery on it, and then it was able to move. Oh, it's not going to work. Okay. Well, it just goes. That's all you're seeing. It's a white piece, like a Lego board, and they just kind of snap it and snap together. But they snap together, and they have different purposes, different pieces that they need. We have sound ones. They love setting off the alarm in class to be annoying and do that kind of stuff. But they're playing and they're creating, so that's the most important part, and they're being really inventive. Some other ways that the kids have used the little bits. This one made a scoreboard for the basketball game that they made, a little basketball game, and it literally has the numbers on it. They can change it.
One of the bits is a little timer. It has a little digital clock on it, so you can make timers and scoreboard and all that kind of stuff out of it.
And then another student made a light projector. He put it in a little cardboard tube that had a little light LED, and he made a circuit that would he cut out a shape, and then it projected it onto the table. So kind of made his own little projector version, which was pretty awesome, because he just came up to me and goes, "Look what I made." And I was like, whoa, didn't even think that was possible. So their excitement when they create things, and they take it 10 million times further than what I ever anticipate when I do it.
So we also recently, in the last couple of years, got a couple 3D printers, actually 3 of them. And we use these more with middle school, but we're bringing it down a little bit lower to these grades, and there's a lot of problem solving you can do with that. I do with middle school, I do like creative design for some of their sessions when I get to see them, which isn't nearly as often as all the other ones. But we, the top picture here is a challenge where they created a boat, and then you put pennies in there to see if they can float. This was actually with a discovery group, which is our talented and gifted, so we didn't have 28 kids make these boats, because they take a long time to print. 3D stuff takes a long time to print. Any of you who have been around all of that, which is why you need more than one or you never get done. But they created these. They had to have, a spot to hold a coin, how many coins, balance it all out. And then the smaller picture, the lower picture, the way we introduced 3D printing for like 3rd and 4th grade is we tied in their handwriting skills, because we still do cursive writing. and you can just free draw. The program we use is Tinkercad, and in Tinkercad you can free draw, and they had to figure out how to keep everything continual without those spaces, because if you print it and there's spaces in there, it's going to break apart into pieces. So they had to figure that all out, and they were given parameters on how big it could be and what they could print, and they absolutely loved this activity. It was a really easy way to introduce them to Tinkercad, and then you take it from there with building bigger programs, bigger whatever it is they're going to do for a project. We have one in middle school where they're studying Greece, and in the past they always would design a piece of Greek architecture, like with their columns, and the thing at the top is called a frieze, I believe. And so we designed those then in Tinkercad, and they all get to print one. And they are very small because, again, they take so long to print. So we have, you put your parameters on it, but then they learn how to, like their name could be, they had to put like a number on there in like your Roman numerals. And then that's another piece where you have to bring that up and put it on the frieze and either indent it or have it sitting out, that it's an additional piece on there. So they learn how to do all of that then as part of a project, and it's meaningful. It's not just, I made a square, I stuck my name on it, boom, we're done. So it really applies to what they're doing.
Another piece of 3D printing, and I know you're like, how does this have anything to do with that? But on these iPads, there's a little microscope that we got from a class that I went to, a STEM class. We printed them on the 3D printers, and you just put a little glass bead in it, and it turns your iPad or your phone into a microscope. So we do soils, rocks, and landforms. In 4th grade is another science standard I have, and so these are soil samples that the students are looking at, and they found a bug. They were pretty excited about that on the microscope. So you can see how zoomed in and how it works with literally just a glass bead and then a little thing that we printed on the 3D printer.
And that link at the bottom will take you to the design if you want to print your own.
If you have a 3D printer and you'd like to print your own.
We have permission for that, yeah.
Yep. So the kids love that and taking it into science parts of it. Okay, coding, I kind of hinted at a little bit of the things that we do in coding in 4th grade. Again, it's code week, so if you can get some kind of coding done in your classroom this week, it's super important. Computer programming is a field that is very much growing and very understaffed. There's not as many people graduating in computer programming as careers there are possible. So when I show those things to the students and I show them the money symbols and all of that kind of stuff, they get really excited about it. So that's how I start out my coding unit. But they're teaching problem solving, reading, and writing. My favorite thing, and I got goosebumps just even thinking about it now, was when one of my students that I was teaching coding, she is dyslexic and she struggles very much with reading and writing, and she's always been, I can't read this, I can't write this, I can't do this. And she came up to me and she showed me, she goes, look what I just wrote and look what I just read when I did my coding. And she was so proud of herself that she could read and write well, just like everybody else in her class. She was super excited about it. So that's one of those meaningful moments as to why we do things. And coding is something that will continue to be a passion of mine with my students. It's individualized. If you use code.org, they have where you can pick course levels for each grade level that you teach. So 4th grade, I know, is course E if you go to code.org, and it gives students a walkthrough program as to what they should be doing, and it starts out small, builds into the loops and all of the other stuff that they do. It allows for creativity and critical thinking. Right now, the code.org has a dance party one, and I'll tell you right now, it is so fun.
That one.
Yep.
So this week with it being coding week, you just go to code.org, and right here it just says get start. You don't even need accounts. You can just, if you don't want to save it, if your kids want to save, obviously, but otherwise you can just go in and anybody can do this.
But they're loving it. Oh, sorry. Okay. But then you put your age in, and then all of that's how it goes through there. And they will add the blocks in there. And again, it asks for your age, so they have to be honest, and that's another digital citizenship part that we talk about. They have to be honest with their age in there. And so it teaches them how to do it. They'll bring their things in, and then they'll code a dance party. So we hear a whole bunch of different songs that are going on right now in my classroom. So, but they love it. The other thing is students have the opportunity to be creative. So this one, they coded their drawing tool to make a window with, he called it mistletoe hanging in the window when he explained it to me. But he could code that to do that without any guidance from me whatsoever. This is another part of code.org that I think more people need to know that it's there, it exists. Every time you finish a activity in there, I always make my students click the button that says show code, and it teaches them from this form that they made into how it would look for the script form of it, the text-based format. So when you do the show code, they say, look at all of these lines of code that I just was able to write on there. So always making sure to click on that part of the tasks that it gives you.
They get very excited to tell you how many lines of code they did.
Yeah, so we're having a
just in that
competition
classroom.
right now
Yeah, they're
with
really
Hour of
into it.
Code Week to see who can write the most lines of code. And they were coming up to me, I just wrote 179 lines of code today, and all that kind of stuff. So the lines of code is pretty cool that they are able to do.
So we also do a lot with Google Classroom, slides, sites, docs. We have, from 3rd grade on up, everybody has their own Google account. We haven't taken it much lower than that. The number of years I've been doing this, I've been doing it a long time, and I still struggle with those little kids, how you get them to type all that in. And, that's a lot of letters for some of them. So
And ours is at Sacred Heart WD.
yeah, it's a long one. So,
really long.
so we're at 3rd grade right now on up, and middle school uses the classrooms all the time. We are not 1-to-1, but we have a lot of carts of Chromebooks. 2-to-1, I'd say, is loosely. We're almost there. Almost there.
I have 12 iPads in my classroom, and
Yeah,
I have
so we
28
have-
students, so we're super close
Yeah.
to doing it. But this is an example of the sites that we used. I won't take you to the websites because it's not working, but I teach energy sources again, and so the students, in order to compare their energy sources, made a website to promote their energy source or to kind of compare and contrast energy sources. So this is working on a nuclear energy site. The cool thing about Google Sites is that in our computer lab, my kids were assigned in groups, and they could work on it together at the exact same time. So it's not a whole group of people crowded around one computer to work through it. They could all work on a certain part of the presentation at the same time, which made it way more meaningful and less time wasting when they were getting it done. So they all wrote it down first, did the research on it, and then were able to type it in, and we used that Mac and Via to help us with our research information to do it.
The other really important part is your platform to present that they're not just doing this, but it's getting out there to people who, to like your shareholders, stockholders, whatever you want to call them, to let them know what you're doing in your classrooms. And just like I said, when we finish a project, they share with their classmates, and then you do a lot of other things with it as well.
We do a lot of presenting, like I said before. It makes their learning meaningful. It provides purpose to what they're doing. The kids also, when they see somebody else created something, they're a little bit more motivated to take it another step further and want to have the best thing that they made. But how proud they are when they've made something and they're able to show it to a friend, and a friend thinks it's pretty sweet. They get really excited about it. Like I said, I use Instagram, and they love, can I record a video of my project on Instagram? Can I post it on Instagram? Can I post what I made on Instagram? But even something as little as in front of the class. We also take a lot of time that anytime somebody comes into our school, we try to share something that they've created in makerspace to any visitor that comes in. Just because we're Catholic school, we are trying to get enrollment in, of course, but also It shows that a lot of people have this thought process that Catholic schools are not doing the same thing as public schools, and we want to kind of make sure that people know that that's not true. We are doing just as many cool things in our schools as well. But we also have Grandparents' Day, and we had the grandparents coding the robots on Grandparents' Day in April, and their faces were just as excited as the kids' faces when they were able to code a robot through a maze from the instruction of a 4th grader, not from my instruction, from the instruction of a 4th grader, which makes it pretty cool because then they really did learn what we taught them because they could teach somebody else.
Do you have the cards you did?
Yeah,
With
I have a
just
picture
tell
on that.
them.
I do have a
Yeah.
picture, I think, on here.
Yeah.
Another thing that I use is Seesaw. As much as I love my students, there's no possible way to see every single thing that they make in Makerspace, even though they all run up to me at one time and say, look at this, look at this, look at this. So I say, just take a picture and put it on Seesaw, and I'll check it out later and give you some comments and feedback back, and then they can also share with their friends on Seesaw then too. I guess I don't have it on here, but we made, again, I did circuits this last year, and they made cards for their grandparents, but in their cards for their grandparents, we used the copper tape and an LED, and they made something glow in their cards. So one little kiddo made, and it's on my Instagram, but one little kiddo made his grandma and had her necklace light up in the card when they pushed the button. So giving some way to share their STEM and their creativity. That's something you buy from a store usually, but they handmade their cards and were able to make something in it glow to connect to their circuits and tell their grandparents that behind this is their circuit that they had to draw and create and make sure the piece is connected to the battery. So they were pretty excited about that.
So I'm sure everybody's thinking, how did you pay for all this stuff? And this has been a labor of love that's taken about 5 years to get to where we are today. Started with your idea, how are we going to do it? You can start really small with just a handful of things. We are very fortunate because of our status of private school. We have an endowment which really helped us get started. This fit right into one of their categories, which is helping all students, that it benefits the entire school, not just one grade level. And but we did our homework first and really had everything put together and showed them how this was going to work, had a very good plan written out. Like we said, parents, grandparents, we also write grants. We've done the Prairie Meadows grants, the STEM grants through our local, through Central Iowa. The Scale Up grants are big. This year we got Pint-Sized Science, which we got that one, which is for your little like pre-K through 2nd grade, and they all got a lot of really cool stuff off there. Your Scholastic Book Order points, you've done things through there.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think that the Scholastic Book points can get them technology-related things or STEM-related things, but I have purchased coding books from my book order bonus points, but they also have a dash and dot on there that you can buy. You can buy iPads with your bonus points, so the more books that your kids order, or if you're ordering books from school, have it ordered under somebody's account, and then you can get bonus points for that, and you'd be surprised as to how many those rack up and how nice it is to purchase those kind of things, STEM-related things, with just something as easy as bonus points.
The other thing with locally, like with your budget, if you can find a way to get at least some seed money, get it started, and then once everybody sees how successful it is, get that just put into your budget, just a chunk of money every year earmarked to purchase a certain amount of things.
And then host a fundraiser with the things that the kids make. Parents always want their kids' things, and if you can sell the things that the kids make, we got a Cricut in making the earrings and having the kids selling the earrings, using the fused plastic to make grocery bags, the reusable grocery bags that the kids will be making. We're having a STEM night and having the different things that the kids created on sale for the parents to buy to help just add a little bit more money to our funding. So what's next?
So if it really helps if you have somebody else who will get on board with this with you. To do it as one person is hard. When I found this class up at Iowa State, I'm like, Nicole, you got to take this with me. And she's like, I'm already doing grad school. I don't have time for any more classes. But I talked her into it, and it was so good. And it really helps to have someone else do it with you. And administration is big. Heartland AEA has been a huge help, like we said. Just other teachers. Find a class. There's a lot of them now available. And, just try things out. If it doesn't work, unless you've stuck a ton of money into it, what are you out? Maybe some of your time. We found a lot of things that work and some that don't. I mean, you're going to have failures along the way. But that's also, every poster in my room says, a lot of the, all the posters and things are about keep trying, about, what's the fail one? First attempt. First attempt in learning, so they don't always work out the first time. So this is really the same thing. If you start small with just a couple things and just move forward that way, a little bit at a time.
And try different things. The Science Center is a great resource as well. Think about the Science Center in Des Moines. I took a class there this summer and learned a whole bunch of different things of how to make makerspace more meaningful. Most important part is to encourage the kids to play. These are a few of my favorite play quotes. I'm somebody who suffered from ADHD learning my whole entire life, and school was awful for me, and I vowed that I was never going to be the teacher who wasn't awful, made them sit and do nothing. So play was important to me in learning, and I wanted to make sure my students have the opportunity to play. So play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning, but for children, play is the serious learning. And then my other one is play is the highest form of research from Albert Einstein. And I think those are all super important things for our kiddos to know and understand, that they may think that they're just playing, but we always find a purpose in what they're doing, and encouraging them to get out and play.
And a fine example of that, I just heard I can't remember the kid's name. He's like 7 years old and is worth $22 million. He has a YouTube channel.
Yep, and he plays with toys.
Tests toys out, and he started putting them out on YouTube, and he literally made like $22 million this year, and he's 7. Yeah. So play, if you can get paid to play, you bet.
Play, yep.
Yeah.
So again, reach out if you have any questions of how either I implement it in my 4th grade classroom, or how she sets it up for our other teachers to go in to work with her. Please let us know. If you want to come see our makerspace,
Yeah, we're happy
or
to-
come
we're happy to
play
share.
in our makerspace with us, let us know. We love having visitors, like we said, to show that just because we're a Catholic school, we're not that different.
And we brought a lot of stuff to play with for right now. So if you want to grab an Osmo and a kit, or a Sphero, or an Ozobot, and play a little bit, we've got time for
Or
that.
if you want to try dance party on code.org,
Yeah, that's
try
another
some
thing.
dance moves. Yeah.
You guys have mentioned the class at Iowa State.
Yes.
What is it? Do they still offer it?
They don't.
They're not right now.
No.
We're trying to get them to do it again, because it was so
Yeah.
awesome for us. It was a summer course, so I think that's a little bit of the hurdle that
But
they
if-
had to
yeah.
jump over.
Just check even just their ed tech site for the college, because that's where we spend our time. And they've got basically a makerspace lab set up in the basement of that room.
Just out of curiosity, in case they would ever offer again, do you know what it was?
I think it's just called Makerspace. You know what? I
Makerspace,
can
something.
find it. Maker Technologies. I think it's this one right here. No, that wasn't the one. I thought it was called Maker Technologies, because we logged in through Canvas. It was
Yep.
called Maker Technologies.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the Science Center has a ton you can get credit for.
Yep.
So,
All right.
all right. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you.